This is the Black Information Network Daily Podcast, and I am your host, Ramses Ja. And sometimes the amount of stories that make their way to us means that we simply can't cover everything that comes our way. But from time to time, a story just stays with me, and I feel compelled to share it with you and give you my thoughts. And now, one more thing. Okay, so if you're anything like the two of us, you can't help but pay attention to the news. And, you know, we knew that a lot of these things were coming. We talked extensively on this show about Project 2025 and Trump's agenda and Trump's general personality and attitude toward teaching the fullness of American history, and certainly discussed in what we believe his mind has in terms of, a regard for Black people and our contributions to this country specifically, and on and on. And, you know, we came across one such news article from the Associated Press that we're going to share with you in just a sec, that kind of provoked a conversation between the two of us. So I won't hold you. Let's get right to it. This is from the Associated Press, and bear with me. It's got some length to it. The Air Force has removed training courses with videos of its storied Tuskegee Airmen and the Women Air Force Service Pilots, or WASPs, the female World War II pilots who were vital in ferrying warplanes for the military to comply with the Trump administration's crackdown on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. The videos were shown to Air Force troops as a part of DEI courses they took during basic military training. In a statement, the Air Force confirmed the courses with those videos had been removed and said it will fully execute and implement all directives outlined in the executive orders issued by the President, ensuring that they are carried out with the utmost professionalism, efficiency, and in alignment with national security objectives. The problem may not be with the historical videos themselves, but that they were used in Air Force basic military training DEI coursework. However, the lack of clearer guidance has sent the Air Force and other agencies scrambling to take the broadest approach to what content is removed to make sure they are in compliance. The Tuskegee Airmen, known as the Red Tails, were the nation's first Black military pilots who served in a segregated World War II unit, and their all-Black 332nd Fighter Group had one of the lowest loss records of all the bomber escorts in the war. They flew P-47 Thunderbolt, P-51 Mustang, and other fighter aircraft to escort American bombers on dangerous missions over Germany. Before the fighter escorts began accompanying the slow and heavy U.S. bombers, losses were catastrophic due to getting dive-bombed and strafed by German aircraft. In a statement late Saturday, Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated, the nonprofit foundation created to preserve the legacy of those pilots, said it was strongly opposed to the removal of the videos to comply with Trump's order. The stories of the Tuskegee Airmen and the WASPs, quote, are an essential part of American history and carried significant weight in the World War II veteran community. We believe the content of these courses does not promote one category of service member or citizen over another. They are simply a part of American military history that all service members should be made aware of, unquote, the group said. President George W. Bush awarded the Tuskegee Airmen the Congressional Gold Medal in a ceremony at the Capitol Rotunda in 2007. In 2020, in his State of the Union address, Trump announced he had promoted one of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen, Charles McGee, to brigadier general. McGee died in 2022 at the age of 102. The WASPs contributed to World War II by learning to fly and ferry new bombers off the assembly lines to airfields where they were needed to ship off to war, freeing up male pilots to focus on combat missions overseas. They earned the right to be buried in Arlington National Cemetery just in the last decade. The Air Force, like other branches, has recently tried to broaden the number of people they reach to consider military careers like aviation that historically have had few minority service members in their ranks. So, again, we expected Donald Trump to do exactly what Donald Trump said he was going to do. So I don't want to say that this is surprising. I think that for me, I I just didn't know how far it would reach. So while it's not surprising, it certainly is interesting that it goes so far, especially considering that it would make sense for those in power currently to have the rest of us, I use that language specifically, doing the dirty work for them, right? They want to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few people that more or less look the same. They want to diminish opportunities for other people that they feel encroach on the opportunities of their posterity. And I would imagine if it was up to them, the black people would clean up. We would fight their wars. We would do all the menial jobs and low-paying jobs, serve them, that sort of thing, right? It's consistent with their larger push. But to remove something based on a federal mandate, an executive order that shows black people serving in a military capacity and doing well, one would imagine that would inspire other black people to join the military, to feel like they can make a career out of this, to continue to protect the interests of the rich and powerful of the United States of America. And I think that this might be something that maybe a person like Donald Trump hadn't considered. I know that the job is complicated, and my estimation, he is about the most sinister human being that has ever crawled on the face of this planet. But it feels like this doesn't help us, but it doesn't help you either. And that part feels a little like weird. To what end do you want to remove black people from the military? Right? It's like saying, again, like if you didn't want us to see ourselves in that role, then, this would make sense. But from what I would guess, that's probably one of the better places for black people to actually end up.
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
Uh-huh.
I've been deliberate about saying that now,
sure, as
instead
opposed to
of
DEI,
yeah. Because they've intentionally made DEI a word.
Mm-hmm.
It was an acronym.
Mm-hmm.
They've made it a word, a bad word.
Mm-hmm.
When you say what those things stand for, it sounds
crazy.
Even more insane.
Sounds crazy.
That you're trying to ban diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like it takes a special type of evil, right? And evil being the blatant absence of empathy for anyone who's not exactly like you. And shown us that the mission of this president, it would have been sinister enough if his mission was, let me make all of my billionaire friends more billionaire. You know what I mean? Like, let me make all of my rich friends richer. That'd be enough of a problem when you're the president of 100 million citizens to only want to focus on 1,000 of them, or 400 or 500 of them. But again, what we noticed in all of these executive orders is it's not just, or I can't even say it's not just, it's not that he's doing things where the byproduct is displacement for us, right? He made this special thing that helps this one group, and by
virtue of doing that,
it hurt this other group. No.
It's specifically to hurt.
He's only doing things to hurt other groups.
Yeah.
Those are the only things that are a priority. And with black people, the complete erasure of us from today and yesterday seems to be the mission.
It's so weird.
Right? Because he knows that there's valor in the military. Right? He's too racist and too unintelligent. People keep trying to make me believe that because he's rich, that means he's smart. He's not. Because he's had some success, that means he's smart. It doesn't.
Yeah, and the success is about the optics too. It's not. Go ahead.
A truly intelligent evil person would want all black people to enlist and fight our wars for us.
Thank you.
He's not a truly intelligent evil person. He's just an evil person. And because there might be something respectable or some valor or some achievement that a black person could achieve as a military person, i.e. the Tuskegee Airmen, no, we don't want them to look good or favorable in our nation's history at any point ever.
So let me jump in right here. Now, I want to be fair, even though nobody deserves it. But let's state it clearly, okay? Donald Trump signed an executive order, and it was up to the federal agencies to interpret what that order means for their specific lane. So Donald Trump may not have explicitly said, let's take those Tuskegee Airmen out of the training coursework for the new recruits. So I want to make sure that that's stated, but I want to go a step further. And this is the one more thing part of this episode, I am not faulting the military, not the Air Force, not the whoever's doing whatever with whatever branch of the military. I'm not faulting them, because indeed Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief and their job is to execute on the orders of the commander-in-chief, right? But I think that this article helped me reframe how I'm looking at private companies, because the military has to do what the commander-in-chief orders. But Walmart doesn't, and Target doesn't, and Amazon doesn't. But, shout out to, Kroger, and shout out to Costco, because they recognize that, and they have not abandoned their DEI program.
Shout out, ironically, to Apple.
Apple, yes.
Because Tim Cook's sitting right up there with Mr. President.
And so, it helps me to understand in the ways that I can push back, in the ways that I can decide to spend my money, who is really going to heed the truth of this moment. And I've stated this before on the show, but I think it bears repeating. Black people will be on this planet longer than Donald Trump will. And if you want your corporation to continue to exist, which indeed most, if not all corporations, they live and die by the razor thin margins that they can eke out quarter after quarter, year after year. And if you lose the support of black people and our allies, I think that affects your profit margins, those razor thin margins. And we can outlast Trump. We've been on this planet since the beginning. And we can also outlast you. And that makes me feel like we have a little bit more power. And this is why I'm not, I wish the military didn't have to do this, but I understand that they do. But it helps me to understand that private companies don't have to do this. Again, Walmart, that's cold to just a couple of years after saying, hey, look, we value all different perspectives, and to say, you know what, because of the new administration, we're going to do an about face, blah, 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 and like kiss the ring. Again, black people are going to be on this planet longer than Donald Trump. And you're going to have to come back down our street if you want them razor thin profits. So that's real hurtful. But
I think the specific nature of capitalism in our country and the specific nature of white supremacist, xenophobic, racist, bigoted people is that white supremacist racism they place before everything else, including profitability. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
right?
see.
Like the election results bear that out. They put it before profitability. They put it before solidarity. They put it before their religion. They had to pick between the followings of Jesus Christ or the followings of Donald Trump. And there's no overlap. The Venn diagram has no crossover. And they picked the other one.
Yeah.
Christians. Like the Christian church as an organization. Like that. Racism is powerful. Women chose MAGA over solidarity with women. Almost half of Hispanics chose MAGA over solidarity with other Hispanics and black people. Some black people chose MAGA over being black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like some black men, let me say that differently, because black women showed up at an almost 100% clip on the right side of this thing.
If we would have won the election, it would have been because black women were able to pull off the saving of this country another time. So, you know, what white supremacist racists have shown us is that is priority one in their lives. It's the reason that they're able to have so much solidarity. They all feel like the most important thing in the world is that. Forget all the things that we're not on the same page about. They'll excuse it to death. Like you and I, years ago, and I'll never forget this because we sat in the studio and watched this video of a mother explaining to her 12-year-old daughter that grabbing them by the is okay. Yeah.
Because she would rather explain that to her daughter than walk back her support for the man who said it. I was flabbergasted.
Yeah.
But we saw in that moment continuing to say, because she could have pretended to not support him. I need to say on camera that I support him no matter what. And that is more important than my daughter's understanding right now in real time that what he said isn't okay. And then you had to watch her daughters receive what mom said and then agree with it because she's mom.
Yeah, it's interesting when people are kind of in those moments, how they find a path to reconciling all this stuff. They find a path to where somehow they're not wrong. Somehow what they've done is moral or just, or they're a decent person. And watching them go through the mental gymnastics and the intellectual dishonesty that they have to weave through in order to arrive there is very interesting. There's something that we say on the show quite a bit. That's a quote from Mark Twain, but it's easier to fool somebody than it is to convince somebody that they've been fooled. And I think that's kind of gives a similar insight into the way the human brain works, especially if you've been properly motivated by fear or hate. Yeah. And sometimes those are two sides of the same coin. But you know what I want to do for this episode? I want to hear from somebody who maybe you voted for Donald Trump. Maybe you did, you know, and maybe you also happen to know about the Red Tails. Maybe you saw the movie. Maybe you are a proud black person. And you know, you're proud of our history and our contributions to this country. And you just happen to think that, you know, a conservative approach is better than a liberal approach in terms of your politics. But you casted a vote for Donald Trump and you knew all that was coming with it. We certainly told you. So if you're a longtime listener, there are no surprises here for you either. But I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from anyone, you know, but from you in particular, because this is the fallout. This is the ripple effect of this presidency. You know, and again, anything that has to do with tax dollars, Donald Trump more or less has some degree of control over. So this doesn't stop at the Air Force. This filters all the way down into the schools where children, my son's age, what they're going to learn in school is going to be fundamentally shaped by an agenda that would rather the history of his people be left out. And the way that they'll say it on the right is, oh, well, there's no such thing as black history. It's all American history. But this person that I want to reach out, that when they lump our history in with American history, they're going to have to edit it down. And the parts that get edited are our parts. They think that American history is George Washington. They think that American history is, Vietnam. They don't think that American history is the bus boycotts in Montgomery. They don't think American history is Jim Crow. They don't think that.
On a federal level, trying to get rid of Black History Month and MLK Day shows you what they really think. Like, again, they're not trying to fool us in any way. They're not trying to blindfold us and sneak something by us in the dead of night. No, they're showing us exactly how they feel and exactly what they intend to do. Yeah, right out in front of us.
Yeah. So, like I said, if you got something to offer, reach out. I'd love to hear your take on this. Explain it to me, make it make sense. Let's talk about it. You can do so using the red microphone talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. Or you can reach me on all social media at Ramses Jah.
I am Q Ward on all social media as well.
And until we talk,
peace.
This has been a production of the Black Information Network. Today's show is produced by Chris Thompson. Have some thoughts you'd like to share? Use the red microphone talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. While you're there, be sure to hit subscribe and download all of our episodes. I am your host, Ramses Jah on all social media. Join us tomorrow as we share our news with our voice, from our perspective, right here on the Black Information Network Daily Podcast.